Hello, hello. Welcome for joining. Welcome to your next chapter, moving on after heartbreak. Thank you so much for joining. And I really want you to thank yourself for making this time today for yourself and for joining us all here. It's probably a vulnerable moment. And it's really good to take this time and just think like, is there anything that I could learn today that could help me? I really hope that there is. So I'm sure everyone here has a lot that they could be doing instead today. So we're going to give everyone a second to get in and then we can get started. And I'm just checking here. Um, I do have some notes so I don't go off on tangents, but I just sort of put them over my face so I don't get tied up in how I look because that doesn't matter. So if you see me squint or something, it's to check and make sure I didn't miss something because I want to make sure that I don't miss any of the things I've been working on for this workshop for you. Okay. I also have the comments set to show only to me in the chat because I do live trainings in the dating burnout support group on Facebook. And I know people get shy about sharing vulnerable issues. And I want to ensure you all feel comfortable and have privacy and a place to ask me questions. And I will give time to answer questions at the end if you have any. Okay. Um, and I also want to start with a question for you all. Who's here because you had a relationship end and you want to move forward carrying only the lessons and leaving behind the baggage and you're ready to flip the switch. So type ready if you are. Yay. Yay. Okay. Everyone's ready. All right. We're getting ready. So first some housekeeping. Um You will probably want a notebook and a pen for this, or if you like take notes in another window while you're doing this, whatever works best. I do a bit of both. So sometimes I'm really effective just taking notes in another window, and sometimes I really need a pen to make sure I get it all. Um, I think I'm more efficient typing, but I know that I remember more when I'm writing. We'll pause a moment while people get in here so you can go and get the notebook and pen if you don't have it handy. Um, but I'm really glad everyone's here on Saturday. I've had a crazy, crazy week, month so far, all of June. June's always been nuts because I'm a parent. If you're a parent, you understand like June and September are just really difficult. But my daughter also graduated high school and turned 18. And I had a bunch of family in town visiting for a really long time over that. And we had multiple birthdays, Father's Day, the graduation, all these things to celebrate. And it was amazing. It was amazing. It was just like, I was just filled with gratitude the entire time. And my family got to spend time with my partner, which, they live far away. So they had only spent time with him about 6 years ago for a little bit. And so it was just really nice to have everyone together like that and have them all really get to know him. And, my sister pulled me aside and was like, he's so great. And I was like, thank you. Like, I don't need to hear it. It's nice to hear, it feels good to hear. I don't need the approval, but I certainly appreciate it. But anyway, okay, if everyone's back, let's get going. So first, let me tell you who I am. So you know where I'm coming from and you understand the basis of what we're going to review. Now, some of you might be really new to me, especially if you're not in the Dating Burnout Support Group on Facebook and you haven't been following me on TikTok for very long. So I usually charge about $2,500 for my one-on-one program, but do not worry about that because what we're going to cover today is going to be super valuable. It's based on my one-on-one coaching methods, which usually take anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks to complete, depending on people's schedules and their really internal drive to make the changes, right? So for those of you who don't know me or haven't met me before, I'm Caroline Mier. I'm a former white glove matchmaker. I'm a certified NLP and life coach. I go by the dating burnout coach on social media because burnout is when people really want to give up on their dreams. And I like to help people through that. So Before I became a matchmaker, I was still healing from a blindside breakup. And if you came to this workshop from TikTok, you probably saw me describe that or saw me talk about how you know when you're ready to move on after healing from a breakup, when you're ready to start dating again. And what really made this all the more painful was because it was my first time really feeling passionate, intense love like you see on TV that I'd read about since I was a teenager, despite having been married for 10 years also. So this happened in a relationship I had after divorce, and I was pretty brittle for a while. And I tried a lot of things. I tried swearing off dating. I tried dating people who I knew were more interested in me than I was in them, to feel like I was safe somehow. And then just trying to make peace with being single forever, right? And just really thinking about what does that look like for me? Like, is this how does that how is that going to change what I define as satisfaction in my life? All right. So during this time, I was in therapy more seriously than I had been since I was in couples counseling when I was married. And I was in the midst of that when I landed my dream job as a matchmaker. Spoiler alert, it turned out to not be my dream job because, see, I firmly believe in love and I believe in the power of an amazing relationship and what it can do for your life, every aspect of your life. And I also know how the wrong relationship can figuratively and literally destroy your life. And I also really support people choosing to be single. And I wanted to feel like that was my path. But I knew in my heart I was very good, maybe too good at loving someone. And even if they were the wrong person, and I felt like it would just be a shame if I was never able to share all of that again with somebody that way, all that love I had to give. Because of my job studying, this was built into my day. I was easily working well over 60 hours a week, managing clients, searching for their matches, being available to them, being really like their tough love best friend, and trying to get better at helping them through books, courses, and webinars. And I did all of this while also going back to school to finish my degree and single parenting and rebuilding a community of new friends who'd also been divorced. I realized several things during this time. Okay. Number one, no matter how intense that love was with the man who abandoned me, it was not the only or even healthy way love can feel. Number two, I had way more to unpack from my marriage than I would admit, and dismantling that was probably not going to have a clear end date. Number three, radically loving myself and the person I was becoming was the only way I would ensure no one ever convinced me to accept less again. And number four, taking advice from other people who were also frustrated with dating and making decisions no better than mine was getting in my way. Did I get it all right after that? Who thinks I went forth without any more disappointments in love after that? Raise your hand. No, no, of course not. Of course I didn't. I still made mistakes. I still gave people chances they should not have had. I still spent time worrying about someone who probably wasn't worrying about me. But did I get closer? Yeah, I kept getting closer. I had a plan and I did my best to follow it while I juggled everything in my life and was everyone that the people I was responsible to needed me to be. I kept my goal in my heart of not waiting for someone, but knowing how to recognize when I met them. So now I'm almost 7 years with my partner who is unlike anyone I've ever dated and yet makes perfect sense for me. We have a ton of differences and opposites, but the key is our devotion to each other and our little family is equal. We're equally invested in the life we have built together. And my relationship grounds me while supporting me so I can reach for the highest goals, knowing I have someone on my side who trusts me and my abilities 100%. And I want this feeling for everyone. That's why I do this. That's why I get really intense about it. So, since matchmaking and focusing only on date coaching, I've met with gosh, I did the math and it's got to be at least 1,000 people learning about what they want, how they see life and themselves, and what they think has kept them from meeting their match, and what their preconceived notions about like their dream relationships. So it was during my time matchmaking that I started to develop my program with clients. And since then, I've helped other people create and follow their usually dating blueprint, but it's whatever blueprint for whatever phase they're working on right now. Um, I'm thinking about like Michael, he was like 39 when he started on the program after ending an engagement and being in what he described as a chaotic spiral of dating since. So he tried to change his type, date people in his industry, let his married friends fix him up, all of the usual things, right? And he felt at the end of his rope. But after he worked with me, he redefined and refocused. And last year, he bought a house with his girlfriend, and they're going to get married next year. So actually, in less than a year now. Um, or I'm thinking of Shaylee. She was 47 when we met. She'd been divorced for 4 years. She dated a little and then kind of realized she wasn't ready. So she took a break and she didn't really know where to start. And she decided to take some time to get to know herself after being married and to someone who was really controlling. And after we worked together, she had her blueprint for her next chapter ready. She was ready to refer to it as her permanent toolkit, right? And to have that in hand to manage her discouragement on the path, right? And to keep her focus. So she's been seeing someone for a year now, and she is super happy. She knows how to trust herself now, to make good decisions, and to trust her own judgment. Is everyone with me so far? Say yes if you are. Good, good, good. Okay, good. So you're here today, which means you care about your own growth. You want to learn and grow and understand that learning never ends, right? Say yes in the chat. Okay, yes, yeah. The why, yes. um, we're gonna do a lot around like personal growth throughout this. Okay, so we're going to dive into the strategy. So I'm going to give you a little overview of what we're going to talk about. So here's what we're going to cover today. Okay, what is your narrative right now, right? What's going through your head? What are your relationship scripts and influences? We're going to talk about embracing authenticity and who you authentically are in your next phase now and in your next phase. We're going to talk about aligning your vision for your next chapter, renaming your fears, and releasing your fear of pain. And then we'll create your next chapter blueprint. So, those are the steps of this course. And that's why I always call it the 6 steps path because it really worked out. There really are 6. I tried to make it shorter. It's really important that we work on really releasing fear of pain because it holds us back so much and I can't let go of it. So, first, I want to make sure you have your notebook and your pen. So, type ready in your chat if you have it. The session's going to be interactive, introspective, and then focused really on taking actions on the things within your control. So, let me know if you're ready. Type ready if you're ready to dive in. Okay, great, great. Okay, so let's get some of this icky. We're gonna bookend a little with some icky stuff, right? So we're gonna start, we're kind of end, and so let's start with some icky stuff now. What are you still thinking about, right? Let's look at what's been really occupying your thoughts for the past, about the past, right? Your past relationship. So we can free you of what isn't helpful about moving forward. It's totally natural to engage in magical thinking. And magical thinking is spending time wishing for things that just won't happen, that never will, because we don't have time travel or the ability to see into the future or to see deeply into someone's heart and mind to know if they really mean what they say. Magical thinking is like being a little kid and wishing for a pony, you know? It's just not going to happen. But you're spending your mental energy on it anyway because it sort of provides an escape, right? You can use magical thinking in way more constructive ways, and we will discuss them later. But before that, I want to think about the thoughts that run through your head after heartbreak and how your brain is processing them. So, usually, even if you knew your relationship was not rock solid, there are things that surprise you during a breakup. And it could be anything and everything from like the timing of it to what the other person says, or if they initiated it, like what their reasoning is, or what they respond back to you if you initiated it, whatever, right? Or what happens afterwards and everything in between. Now, when something happens that is unexpected or feels inexplicable to you, your brain tries to shove it into a story that makes sense for you. And that's why you might keep churning these unproductive thoughts around because you're trying to shove these outliers into a narrative that you've built and they don't fit there. So, see, what happens is you learned something new. And anytime we learn new things that seem important, we try to contextualize them into the world we know. And the problem is, not everything you learn fits into the world you know. I like to think about I have a friend whose son is technically a genius, and he was born that way. So when he was really young, he was absorbing everything. Whereas I think most children kind of tune in and out. It's sort of the Charlie Brown thing, like, wah, 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 right? You're just not really listening to adults all the time unless they're speaking directly to you. But the way his brain worked, everything made it in. No filter. He was picking all of it up. But the thing is, he was still a very young child. And so he had a worldview and understanding of like, this is when we color in class, and this is when we, put the toys away. And he was kind of like, he had a little kid's world, but he had adult hearing, right? He could hear everything. And so he would hear something and to try to make something make sense, right? He doesn't understand all the adult nuance of it. He would organize it into something and then he'd say something. And sometimes the things he would say were awful. And my friend would have to go and apologize to the school, explain to them, like, no, that's not something we teach at home. And it was just him trying to take this little bit of something and put it in. It's like trying to put a book from, a crime novel into a child's, picture book. It's not going to fit. And you can try to rewrite the story to make it fit, but it's not going to fit. And that's why your brain gets hooked on it. So hopefully that makes sense. Let me know in the chat. Does that make sense? Say yes. Yeah. You never thought of it that way. Yeah. Well, you'll notice it more, right? You think about that way, you're going to notice it more. So I just want to review. Here's how we're going to handle exercises. So we'll make time today to get your prompts ready and get the first few thoughts ready, but a lot of these are going to take way more time than we're going to have here because I don't want to waste your time being online. I want you to have your time to get things done, and I don't want to spend 20 minutes in silence while you work on things. So, and these can all take as long as you want. Some people really love journaling and being very detailed, and some people like bulleted lists of the highlights only. And whatever is great, this is only for you. It only has to make sense for you. You write in shorthand, you write however, right? You want to voice notes, whatever you like. Okay. This is why you get access to the replay. So you can refer back, you can dive deeper at your own pace, just like in my e-course, right? So in our first exercise, what we're going to do is we're going to list the 3 to 5 thoughts that keep spinning in your head about your last relationship. So it could be like, why didn't they tell me they were unhappy? Or why didn't I realize how wrong this person was for me sooner? Or why wasn't I more honest? Or just why did they do that to me, or whatever else it is, because it's something, right? You've probably got stuff. If you're here, you're having some challenges moving from that phase of the pain and the breakup into how you want the next chapter to look, right? If you're here, that's probably why you're here. So not everything I say is going to resonate with everybody, but And for some of you, it's going to be spot on. And for some of you, there's going to be three things that make a lot of sense and three things that don't. Take what works, okay? So, but you're probably here because you're having some thoughts, if we could just go back in time and I could ask them this or that. This is what I want to know. This is what I don't understand. And this is why I feel like I can't move on and I can't have closure, right? And so get those thoughts down and then ask yourself, how do these thoughts make me feel? And I want you to think about like feel in your body, right? Not interpreting your feelings and like intellectualizing them into thoughts, right? Just in your body, feel them. So if it's like, it makes me feel sick, it makes me feel really sad, it makes me feel helpless, I have a pit in my stomach, I lose my appetite, whatever it is, okay? But like, how does it make me feel in my body? And then think, are these thoughts useful? There could be something from the thought that is really useful to you, and there could be a lot that is just like, I'll never get the answer. I need to accept that I'll never get the answer to these questions, and I need to let that go, right? And let that hope go and move on. And then to ask yourself, what did I learn from this? Right? At the end of that, you look and you go, okay, what did I learn from this? If it's that I don't really have control over how somebody else receives my love. You don't. You don't. I don't have any control over what somebody's doing when they're not with me. I don't have any control over how somebody imagines their future, and it doesn't include me, right? You don't have control over that. Okay. So, what is everyone thinking of this? So, I'll pause a second while you make the notes. We can revisit this later too. I'll drop this in the chat too. Let me. Okay. Okay. I put it in the chat there. Okay. So, you can revisit this later when you have some quiet time to reflect. Does anyone want to share anything in the chat? I won't share your names or anything. Why did he cheat on me? Yeah. I mean, listen, it's his choice. It's his choice, right? And there is no reasoning that's actually going to make you feel better. He just chose to do it, right? And it's generally a sign of weak character. So, um, someone else's strength of character does not define what you do next, right? Why why did he put me before why do you put his friends before me? I mean, everyone has their own priority set and the way they want to live their life, I mean, yeah, that sucks. That hurts. Why did she say she wanted to marry me right before she dumped me? Sometimes people are pleasers and they say what they think is going to get them the result that they want, regardless of how true it is. And yeah, it's really hurtful. Yep. It hurts a lot. I'm sorry. I'm sorry all those things happened. I'm really sorry. Um, let's talk about next relationship scripts and influences. So, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to get clear on what's holding you back from the next phase of your life that you dream about, right? The life that you want to picture yourself moving forward into. So, put in the chat what you think is your main challenge here, right? Is it fear? Is it you know what? Let's make it easier. Let's make it easier. Let's think about what you think your main challenges is in dating or in relationships, right? Is it falling for the wrong person? Is it not meeting the right people in the first place? Is it falling for a type that's actually not good for you? Do you overthink too much? Are you doing that super common thing where you're changing and chasing an early love experience that, you actually can never replicate and probably wasn't really love anyway? So, if you wanna put it in the chat, what do you think it is? People don't mean what they say. Uh, I mean, yeah. And people, they don't know how to communicate. Well, yeah, you're afraid of being hurt, and that's normal, you know? All of that is normal. Okay, so the first thing we're gonna do is think about what has influenced your beliefs about love and dating and relationships. So, who here thinks they've taken in some messages over their life about these topics, about what makes a good relationship or what they should do when they're dating or anything like that, um, that probably isn't helping you? It's probably hurting you. Type yes in the chat if you recognize these at some point. Yes, yes, probably. Yes, yes. Okay. I mean, your beliefs, they're probably like a mix from your parents, other adults, in your everyday life growing up, the media, books, other places. I know I was heavily influenced by the marriages of my friends' parents because I didn't see much in my parents' own marriage that I wanted to replicate. I mean, we're Asian, there was just always a lot of yelling, and I don't like that. What I hadn't understood for a long time seems really obvious. There's always stuff going on in a relationship that, you don't know about, right? But the only people who really know are the two people in it, and even they will have different opinions as you've learned. What I didn't really think about was what those influences like have to do with me, like who I am, my values, my culture, my goals. And so dismantling those influences included first listing what I liked about those relationships, why I liked it, what I responded to in it, how it aligns with who I actually am, and then throwing away everything that doesn't make sense anymore. And I literally made a list and I took big X's and I just crossed them out. Nope, I don't believe this anymore. Does this make any sense to you? So, are there things that you could maybe look at differently about love and relationships and dating if you think about where those beliefs came from? Yes. Yes. Sure. Okay. So the next exercise, you're going to list 3 to 5 beliefs about relationships that you have, and you're going to reflect. Where did I learn this? Does this belief serve me now? And if not, how would I reframe this to fit my goals and what I know of myself and my life today? And if you can't reframe something that doesn't fit, you need to throw it out because it doesn't make sense. Okay. Is everyone thinking about this? I'm going to pause so you can make notes and we can revisit this later when you have some quiet time to reflect. Um, Sometimes people look at old photos of themselves when they were younger to jog their memory, but does anyone want to share any beliefs in the chat while you're doing this? Love means never fighting. Yeah, that's not a great belief to carry on because sometimes fighting just means you really, really care a lot. And it's better than being apathetic, right? Your husband owns you. Oh, That's a that's a big influence to have growing up. You have to sacrifice yourself. Yeah. I mean, there's an element of sacrifice in relationships, especially as a parent, but you don't have to sacrifice yourself and everything you want to make a relationship work out well. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. My allergies just really hit me all of a sudden. All right. So, starting over. So let's move on to really thinking about who we are authentically and specifically who we want to be in this next phase. Who do we really envision in this next chapter? Sorry, give me a minute. Still tickling. So every relationship, romantic or otherwise, leaves an imprint on you, whether you want to accept or believe that or not. So you learned a lot in your last relationship that you'll be unpacking for a long time, and it's going to be a lot better to accept that now then set yourself some arbitrary end date for healing because people say like, oh, a week for every month you were together. There is no math you can apply for healing from pain or heartbreak. It's kind of like you're just trying to scar over, right? But it's not ever going to go away. It happened, it exists, it left a mark. If you've been through this before, you know that things can come up all the time that sort of trigger something from your past. And you're sort of thrust back into that time all of a sudden. And then you have to work through it again. Healing can feel like that old, one step forward, two steps back saying, but if you're super intentional about it and kind and patient with yourself, you can flip that to two steps forward, one step back, right? So you understand and you don't let yourself get too thrown when you have not a setback, but you're kind of thrown backwards a little bit. If you are expecting it to happen, you understand it will happen and you don't let yourself get thrown by it. And you just go, okay, well, what just happened? Let's work through that. You're going to be able to make progress faster. So, when you're in the relationship, because it's a specific dynamic with that person during a certain stage of your life and growth, you became a version of yourself that you get to adapt now for your next phase. So let's think about three things you loved about the person you were in that relationship. So the choices you made, the ways you grew, things like that. And then think of three things you didn't like and want to leave behind as you move forward. So I'm really curious what patterns or behaviors you're still struggling with. I remember feeling like I had to check with someone before doing things. You know about that social media trend, like realizing I have free will and so blah, 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 right? It took me a long time to feel like I had free will. I recall the first trip I took alone after my blindside breakup. It was basically the trip we had planned, and it was like 3 weeks after, and I gave myself a little mantra for those moments, which was, I'm completely a full adult. I can do this. And I still need to remind myself of that sometimes when I'm doing something completely new. I have that like feeling where people say like, when kids come up to you and they're like, I need help, and you start looking around for an adult, and then you realize you're the adult. So whenever I feel like, oh, I need to check with someone, or did someone say I could do this? Is someone helping me do this? I think, no, I'm a full adult. Like I can do this. I don't need to get permission, right? So the next exercise after this is to look at the gap between your self-perception and reality and how we think which is how we think we show up versus how we actually do. So now that you thought about who you were and who you want to be going forward, we're going to figure out how to bridge those gaps because everyone has a gap here. Before we take a few, let's take a few minutes to recap what we've covered so far. So let's check in. How does it sound? Does it sound weird or fun or vulnerable? Or let me know if you have questions. I can anxious to get started, but also kind of don't want to. Yeah, that's fair. But once you get started, you'll get into a flow. It'll get a lot more comfortable and it'll get a lot more habitual thinking about things this way. And it'll just become so much easier. It'll make everything so much easier. It'll make this new chapter so much better because you'll have all these touch points for going like, oh, why did I think that? Why did I say that? Why did I choose that? Or, why am I doing this? You'll be able to really have that reflection moment. So I'm going to give you an exercise that's pretty vulnerable, but it is extremely illuminating and it's really going to help you. So, and I've never had a client not tell me they didn't learn a lot from it. So you're going to ask a few trusted friends who know you really well how they describe you, and you're going to ask them to get really specific. And you're going to receive this with an open mind and heart because this is about growth, and growth is really uncomfortable. This is something you're going to have to come back to because this is something you can come back to if you need like a moment. But again, I've never had someone tell me that it's not helpful. And they can tell you who you are when you're in a relationship. That's going to be super important to know, right? Most people know someone who is a different person when they're in a relationship, and they might be saying, well, she's just not like she normally is when there's a guy around, right? That kind of a thing. Um, you want that information, trust me. It's important to know how you're showing up that way. So ask your friends to describe it and to provide real examples. So if they just give you like a one word description, like they just go, oh, you're regimented or whatever, ask for specific examples of how you demonstrate that. um, so one of my favorite examples is that my friends, I've had more than one person describe me as motherly. And one of my friends gave the example that, like, when we go to the beach, I have snacks for everyone. I have blankets and towels and sunscreen and at least two formulas. And I have a full pop out beach shade and I have little chairs. And to me, this is just me trying to make sure we're comfortable and have a good time, and no one has to cut the outing short because of the sun or heat or hunger. But to her, this is like very motherly behavior. And I'm a mother, so it's okay. Um, but to me, it's like I'm just trying to be a caretaker. So it was like an interesting way that like she was receiving my behavior and choices in the way I was intending them. But you can just tell your friends, like, hey, I'm doing a workshop or I'm doing a journal prompt, or can you help me with something? And then ask them, like, how would you describe me and in my last relationship versus how I am out of a relationship, right? And then can you be specific of how or when I exhibited that? Like ask for specific situations. Okay. There's more sneezing. All right. Uh, I would caution asking family unless you have a really respectful relationship with them, because a lot of families feel invested in keeping you in a certain role so they can protect their own identities within the dynamics of the family. Do you know what I mean? Type yes if you've ever felt like your family needs you to be who you are as a kid and they don't really see you as you are now. Yeah. You suspected that. Yeah. Yeah. Try asking them straight out and see what they say. I have it's so common and so interesting because really like the amount of time you most people, especially most Americans, spend living with their family of origin is so much less than the whole rest of their lives. And yet it's so defining in this way, which I find super fascinating. I want you to have the life and love that you want. You know, you've got this one life. So let's get you where you want to be. It's not going to be painless. You have to get honest. You have to get vulnerable. And you have to take the best care of yourself because your relationship with yourself is the single most important one of your life. So, again, everyone, it means a lot to me that you put yourself first this way and prioritize your dreams in your next chapter this way. I hope you get something out of it. So, um, let's take a few minutes for a break, finish jotting down some notes, and we'll be back in 5 minutes. Okay. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Okay. Welcome back. Let's get right to it. So, this whole session is about aligning yourself to the future that you want. And that is whether you see it with another person or you see it by yourself, but it is to creating the life that you want, right? So, I'm curious if everyone knows who they're going to reach out to for their friend feedback exercise. Let me know in the chat, just yes or no. Yes, no, thinking about it, nervous. Yeah, I promise you though, it's so it's so worth it to find out, right? Because um like I come off as really intense and it's because I care about stuff. It's because I care, you know? Um understanding that that's how like I'm received has been helpful. It doesn't mean I'm going to change, right? But it does help me modulate how I come across. So sometimes. So here's why we do that exercise. So one of the most important ways you bring the future to the present is to bridge the gap between intent versus impact or perception. That's my nose again. Okay. Everyone, and I don't care who you are, has some disconnect between who we think we are and how we come across to others. And you always will, but you can become more aware of it so we can align our intent with how we are perceived by others. The reason I say that this is like always going to exist, that disconnect, is because every single person, again, I do not care who you are, this is true for everyone, views others through a lens of their own experiences, beliefs, and prejudices, right? Everyone's trying to contextualize other people into the story of the world that they understand. All right. So, can we do anything about that part of how we are perceived? Can we change how someone views us through their own lens? Can we change their lenses? Can someone literally take my glasses off, put new glasses on me, and tell me that, like, that's my world now? Right? No, we can't. No, we can't. Yeah, that's right. We can't. Thank you for putting that in the chat. I didn't even ask. It was perfect. That's why we focus on what we can control. We can control if our intent aligns with how we express ourselves to the best of our ability. So, does anyone know like a person in your life or who you've met who you know is a nice person and they really, really mean well, but the way they come across puts people off, right? Like, have you ever told someone else, like, they really mean well, they just get pushy? Or, oh, I know they really like you, they just have trouble relaxing in social situations or something like that? Tell me yes if you do. Yes. Oh, that's me. So listen, we want to think about, yeah, we want to think about, okay, how do I want to be perceived? If I could control it, how would I like people to describe me? How does this align with how I see myself in my next chapter of life? How does this align with the person, the people around me who know me describe? You have, because you're going to have that information. Okay. So next, you're going to make a list of, you're going to make three columns, right? The first column, and we'll just start on this. You can do this later as an exercise later, or write it down now. This is how you want people to think about you and describe you. So for me, I want like intelligent, capable, caring, respectful, understanding, right? Funny. It doesn't always come across here, but I'm a silly person. Okay. Your second column is how people actually describe you based on the things they told you when you asked. All right. And then the third column is who you see yourself as in your next chapter of life, right? This next chapter of your life and how you want people to be describing you and perceiving you in your next chapter of life. So I'll wait while you make those columns with the titles and jot, and I'll put them in the chat here. I'll put them in the chat here. Okay. All right. You can jot down a few to so you know what you're kind of doing later when you really sit and think about this. But type ready when you're done, and we'll get to the next step of this because the purpose of this is to identify the places where you are getting in your own way on your journey, right? To your next chapter. I've never had a client tell me about an intention they have as it relates to communicating with other people, like on a date, that didn't show up differently when I asked them to, in detail, walk me through it. So, a common example is like how they reason asking certain questions on a date, right? They might feel like, oh, this thing I'm trying to understand about this person is a very fair thing for me to understand, but their approach can be easily misconstrued as, abrasive or intrusive or combative. So we work what through like what you should be trying to figure out is you're getting to know people, um and then the ways that you can dis- ways to discover those things that creates a sense of safety and candor and comfort within the interaction, right? So there's always things we do to get in our own way, and um, since you can only control yourself, this exercise is super important. Okay, so the next step of this exercise is to circle all the places on those lists that things don't align. So if you want people to see you as like generous and your friend called you a people pleaser, that's not feeling like how you intend that, right? Um, so what could you do to shift that perception? You know, could you have better boundaries? Could you be more intentional in how you express your generosity? Could you limit it to certain people or situations? Could you ensure your generosity aligns with your values in a meaningful way so it doesn't come across like you're just giving it, like you're giving things just to get people to like you? Could you offer only when it's aligned with your special area of expertise and then ensure that you take the first, like, thank you for offering, but no, I'm fine. I can manage or whatever as the like the final answer? Are you like pushing? Like, so ask yourself, like, what shifts can I make to align my actions to my intentions? So jot that down on the next page. I'll put that in the chat too. Okay. What shifts can I make to align my actions to my intentions? Okay. And remember, you have the replay after this. So you can always come back to this if you want it to jog your memory. But listen, change is incremental. And a lot of things about a person can't be changed. For example, I'm a night owl. I can't just become an early bird, but I can use my time at night more constructively and not do things that keep me up, like doom scrolling or reading a scary book. And like, I can't put it down till I have a resolution, right? I can't change the part of my creative process where things get super messy and chaotic, but I can like organize myself better, right? I I've stopped imagining myself to be the type of person who gets up is at the gym at 6 a.m. and whose house looks like she has no belongings. But I can do like little things to decrease my visual clutter. I can be more organized. I can be better about getting rid of things, um, and not let it distract me further. Or like I'm a procrastinator. Is anyone else a procrastinator? Type me if you are. Yes, I found my people. I found my people. It's rooted in perfectionism, which makes a lot of sense for me. My family of origin basically taught me that, like, if I'm not perfect, I don't get to have opinions or be contrary in any way. So if they all like if I disagree with something they say, then they would like point to my appearance or something I ate or something like that to make fun of me, and kind of shut me up. Um, so like I kept trying to make myself good enough to even be allowed to have a voice. And so like making TikToks when I'm not like ready, um, like makeup, hair, whatever, right, was super daunting to me. But it's now like way easier to do because the only time you do something for the first time is the first time, right? And I did it and the world didn't end and it was okay. And so that's kind of how I try to remind myself when I'm like struggling with things. But the me I imagine in my future is always super on top of things and get things well in advance, but I'm actually more I'm not last minute, but I plan things out and I make sure that I'm like balancing my work time with my family time and my hobby time and things like that. But those are things that I can do to get like a little closer to the person I imagine myself to be. Um, Even if I'll never be like I did all my homework Friday night, that's not due till Monday kind of kid. I was definitely a Sunday night homework kid. um, but by doing these little things, you know, uh, shift me a little closer to who I want to be, but accepting that who I might have in my head might not actually relate to who I am. I've learned to trust myself more. I don't know if that makes sense. Um, Let me know in the chat if you're with me. Uh, it's really personal. It's really unique to each person. And so it can be tough to tackle in this kind of format, but it's important that you align your current self to your future self so you can bring it closer to your reality, right? This is how you're going to move through this kind of in between phase a lot faster and a lot healthier and a lot fewer opportunities to fall back down, right? So the next thing we're going to do, it's not a fun thing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but I won't leave you hanging here, okay? We're going to we're going to name the fears we have and then we're going to choose to move forward. So we're going to use these last couple steps to shift your mind from unhelpful, like what if thoughts to focus on what's in your control and actually leads you to your goals. So we'll look at these thoughts from the first exercise, which is, what are you still thinking about? And we're going to break down what it means. So, for example, if you were still thinking, if I'd only known she was unhappy sooner, I would have changed for her to make her happy. What you're actually saying is, I don't think I am good enough, right? I'm afraid I'm not good enough. Or if you were thinking, was any of it real if he could just toss me aside so easily? What you're really afraid of is being able to trust your own judgment again, let alone trusting other people. But you have to trust yourself to be able to tell if someone is trustworthy, right? And so if you feel like you were sort of hoodwinked, it's hard to trust yourself again. That's why when people kind of get scammed, they don't often report it because they're ashamed that they got scammed and they're embarrassed, right? Um, so you want to go through all of these and try your best to address what the real underlying fear is and then address and your thoughts on this, right? So when you think about what the underlying fear is, and I'm going to copy and paste that in the chat here for you so you can copy it down. But again, you have the replay, so you can look through it again. Okay. And then once you have that done, you're going to see where your opportunities for true healing are. So it's not in time travel to rewrite history, but it's rather in addressing the fears that are driving those thoughts. So you can address those fears in therapy, and you would save yourself a ton of time if you've done this ahead of time because you'll have already found the root of those thoughts already rather than spending 3 or 4 sessions talking about what happened to suss it out. You'll go in and say, I'm afraid of these things, and you'll be able to move forward faster. You can do that work with a coach, or you can do that with journaling as a practice, not just like once like this, but as a habit, right? Or if it's better for you to make recordings for yourself, whatever works, but it to kind of like sit here and go like, okay, I'm having this thought. What am I feeling about it? What does this feeling mean? Like, what is this really telling me about what I think about myself? And then what can I do about it? right? So the next part, sorry, it's still a little icky. I promise. I'm not going to leave you hanging here. But we're going to talk about how we release fear, right? How we're going to release that and open ourselves up to the next chapter, whether that's new love or just a whole new experiences, and making your life the best one for you, right? So let's talk about why fear of rejection or past pain can really hold you back. So, when you've been hurt in love, you need time to recover. But the thing is, you have to recover and you have to let the wound scar over, like I was talking about before. The scar is the lesson, but you can't sit in the pain forever. Um, I had someone who I talked to in a free session. He'd been nursing a wound of a pain from a relationship for 13 years. He had not let himself even think about dating again because of his fear of pain. Do you think that avoiding pain can exist in concert with also living a full and fulfilling life? Tell me in the chat, yes or no, if you think you can avoid pain but live a full life, or at least the possibility of pain. That's right. You can't. You can't. Life is pain. Anything worth having is going to have a risk of pain. And the pain, though, it doesn't last forever. And when it's over, it's in the past. And you can't live in the past. Just like you can't compare new love to a past experience of love. Call me if you want to talk about that. Book a free session with me. I have so much to say about that. And I think that a lot of people don't even realize they're doing it. But if you can free yourself from that, it's going to change a lot. You you can't sit in past pain while trying to avoid future pain. You know, there's nothing to gain from reliving past pain. The thing that happened is over. And I don't mean to sound harsh, but I want to say it as simply and directly as possible because you need to understand that if you truly want to move forward and find the life and love or relationships that you want, the past is over. It is a figment, it no longer exists. The only thing that exists is the present, right? You can't compare new people to people in your past because those people have grown and changed also. So that version you know of them is imaginary now. Even if you did see them and you're going, nothing's changed, it still has, right? There's just stuff that you maybe aren't seeing or it's just not present in that moment, right? You can't use heartbreak as proof that love isn't safe. Every single person you will date is unique. Even if you have a type, they're never going to be the same person. Therefore, how you relate to them is always going to be unique, which means that every single relationship dynamic, even if you repeat some patterns, is unique. So it's not fair to the today version of you to make choices rooted in avoiding something that's over, tied to a person who doesn't really exist anymore, right? Because you learned, and that means you're different, even if just a little from who you were. Does that make sense? Tell me you're with me so far. Say with you. Okay. Okay. It was a little bit of a rant, but it's important. All right. You can watch it on the replay if you're still like not sure. You don't have to get it the first time. Just keep working on it, right? You'll truly feel this if you open yourself up to the message. Protecting that pain and that experience is only hurting you. Even when you meet your ideal partner and you have your dream relationship, they will do something that hurts you. That's just part of being human. And you'll do something, no matter how unintended, that hurts them. Would you want someone you hurt to hold on to what you did forever? Tell me if you understand that all love includes pain. Say yes. Yes. No. I don't want to I don't want to accept that. Yeah. That's fair. That's fair. Okay, so I have an exercise that you definitely have to do later. And again, I'll put it in the chat too, so you can make sure you copy it down. Um, and you should return. This is all these exercises you return to at any time, right? And do them again. But this is one that you should definitely return to if you find your mind reliving or protecting your past pain or using avoiding pain to keep you from moving forward. Okay. Do you remember when I said earlier I'd show you a way to make your magical thinking work for you? Okay, that's what we're going to do. So the first part is you're going to rewrite history. And you can do this because that lesson you got from that painful experience, you already learned, right? So you don't need to hold on to it. The lesson is all that matters. So I want you to take a moment with that magical thinking and then we're going to let it go. Okay. For this exercise, you can engage in all the magical thinking you want. You are going to rewrite the story of what happened so it plays out in a way that didn't cause you as much pain and gives you closure. And I know that this sounds nuts, but here is the thing, your subconscious, it does not know the difference. And it doesn't really matter what actually happened because it's over and you can't change it. Right. So that's why you have to be so careful about letting your mind spiral and spending too much time thinking about those experiences because your subconscious doesn't know that they're not just happening over and over. And then you feel the pain again, and it becomes a cycle that keeps you from moving forward. You're just rewounding yourself when you play it out again. And even when you run away in your, it, even when you run away, like if your mind starts to replay it. So you're going to write out a new story and then you're going to read it and repeat this until you feel like this new story is the true one. So if it's a breakup or rejection or whatever caused you pain, you become an author of how it should have gone. And don't worry, you've got all the lessons. The things you need to take forward, you've got them. You don't need to hold on to the other parts that just caused you pain with pointless pain, right? You don't need them. Does this sound scary or weird or bizarre? You can tell me in the chat. I can take it because I know it works. So there's nothing you could say to me that would tell me that this is not a good thing to be doing. It feels like I'm making my life different. Yeah, you are. It's your life. You can do that. You can do that. I mean, fun fact, okay? Your brain is not a perfect film reel of what actually happened. You know, it's like why they say like eyewitness testimony at a crime is like notoriously unreliable because your brain does not perfectly record events. It is a mix of all sorts of input that you're getting mixed in with your feelings and how your brain is organizing the information with the world you already know. It's why when something completely unbelievable happens in front of you, if that's ever happened to you, your brain doesn't, it like stutters, like you kind of freeze and people can go into shock. I remember like driving, this is a minor thing, but it's always stuck with me. I was driving on Highway 1 in California a very long time ago, and I did not realize like we are going through Central California near like the Hearst estate or whatever, and I did not know about the zoo, basically, like all these wild these animals that were there that are essentially zoo animals. They don't belong there. It's one thing when you're on a road trip and you see horses or sheep or cows or something like that. You're expecting to see those. We're driving along. I look up and there's a zebra right by the highway. And it's not that I haven't seen a zebra before, but I've never seen one just out on a California highway where they do not belong. That is not where they live, right? If they're in California, they should be in a zoo. They shouldn't just be out and about. So I I remember it just my brain couldn't take this information. It couldn't say, "Oh, there's a zebra. Maybe maybe someone has a private zoo nearby," because there was no fence. It was just there. There was no fence. It was just there. And it's always stuck with me when you have things happen out of context and in your brain you're going, I'm driving down the highway, maybe I'll see a vulture, maybe I'll see a hawk, right? That would be cool. That would be a little different, but I'm still expecting to see it. If I see it, I'll go, oh yeah, that's a vulture, it's fine. But this was a zebra. It didn't belong there, and my brain couldn't put it into the story of the world I understood, which was I'm driving down the highway in California where zebras do not live. And so it's important to remember that your brain really wants to put everything into order. And when it can't, it will start to patch together stories to make sense for you. And some things don't make sense. Some things just don't. If you being with someone for 8 years and being totally in love and thinking you were going to be with them forever, and one day they just come in and they say, oh, I've met someone else and I'm moving out, that is an action that is so bizarre, right? It is so weird. It does not have context in your life because your life is I'm in this relationship. We have conversations, we talk about things, and they would never hurt me this way. Right? So now you have this bit of information and you have this world that is your world, and they don't fit. They don't belong together. That's okay. You're allowed to build your world and your worldview and the things you believe and the things you take in the way you want, right? This is this was nonsensical action. It does not make sense that somebody would do this because it means they don't have emotional integrity, they don't honor you, right? They should, if they were feeling like they were going to cheat, they should have talked to you before they cheated. They should have talked to you, "Hey, I'm not feeling like this relationship is quite right for me." They should have talked to you before. This shouldn't have been a surprise. So, now you have these pieces that don't go together. And you don't need to hold on to that. You don't need to hold on to this is a terrible thing someone would do. If you would never do that to someone and you're never going to let someone else do that to you, you've got the lesson. Then the rest of it is throw it in the garbage. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's my low rant. That's my zebra story. Okay. The second part that we're going to do is we're going to write a fear release statement. Okay. And it's about letting go of that situation or any other pain you've been carrying. You say clearly, I release, and you list every part of what you are letting go of, right? For example, I could say, I release the naive woman who believed true love could be found after knowing someone for a month, right? I release the young woman who was groomed by a very grown adult man in society into thinking that the approval of an older man was a compliment and it meant I was special, right? Does that make sense? So, are you seeing how powerful this can be? And if you're going to do this later, because it really takes time and can be emotional as you release this, when you feel that old pain tugging at you, trying to keep you from moving forward, you can do these release statements again and anything. I release, right? I release. You're going to let it go. Okay, I'm going to make sure you have all of this in your chat. If you're watching this on the replay, you can just pause it, which is really nice. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we're going to shake it out because the next thing we'll do, my shoulders get really tense. Okay. The next thing we'll do is lay out your next chapter blueprint that you get to fill in once you have all these steps done. And for everyone who's stuck with this, like fantastic. I'm so proud of you, and this is going to makes such a difference for you, and I'm really excited to in any ways support you on this journey. So, all right, we're going to lay out your next chapter blueprint. You get to fill it in once you have the steps done. And we're going to move forward into that. So you're going to get a whole new clean sheet of paper. Tell me in the chat when you're ready. Just say ready. I've got some crows that live in the neighborhood, and they always watch for when I'm leaving um, on a dog walk because I feed them. And if you've ever watched my TikToks, you can hear them screaming in the background if I record a dog walk video, um, because they follow me because I feed them. I feed them peanuts and cashews. Um, they're so big and they're so pretty. Anyway, I wanted crow friends. It started around 2020. I was like, I need something new to do. I'll befriend some crows. Anyway, okay, everyone ready? Looks like you're ready. Okay, I got a good amount of yeses here. So we're going to bring this all together into a clear plan for moving forward. All right, are you ready? So you will need to take a new page. You're going to split it into 3 sections. Any way you want, horizontal, vertical. You can, I like vertical, but however you like to do it. All right. Section 1, the title, and I'm going to put it in the chat. Let me actually copy it now so I can do that. Okay. Section 1, title, who I was in my last relationship. So that was your authentic self as you realistically are in your most recent relationship. All right. Section 2, who I want to be for my next chapter. Think about those things that you imagine yourself to be in your next chapter, and be very specific about it, right? Don't just say loving. Say, I remember to tell the people close to me how much I care about them and appreciate them. I remember to show my appreciation in the following ways. I like, if that's how it is, if it's like, um, I'm going to take better care of myself. No, it's, I'm going to remember to take my vitamins, and I'm going to replace my lunchtime burger with a salad, whatever. Be specific, okay? Be specific and be realistic. All right? Be realistic. Um, and the third column is how I will love and care for myself and my healing so I can become the person I want to be. So, this includes how you're going to move forward without fear of pain and spiraling into the past, and expanding your network, creating real connections that are not transactional, like all of those things. How are you going to love and care for yourself? Because you're going to build your next chapter the way you want it, this big, beautiful life the way you want it, right? Alone, with a partner, however you want it, but you can make it as fulfilling as you want it to be. It's totally under your control to do that. And now that you know how to escape your thoughts that aren't helping you, how to rewrite history so you get that closure that you otherwise like will not get. You need to accept there is no sit down conversation that is probably going to happen. For some of you it might. For most people, it's very unlikely you're ever going to have a sit down conversation with the last person you were in a relationship with, or the relationship that really hurt you, that if it actually happens is going to feel like a resolution, is going to feel healing and constructive, and you're going to breathe that big sigh of relief and be able to move forward clearly. Even if you did have the conversation, it's very likely it's going to be deeply unsatisfying, because you can't control how they see things, how they choose to frame things. You can't control the story they told themselves to contextualize their choices, and how they're moving forward. You can't control any of that. So you can decide how your brain is receiving the story. You have the lesson. You don't need to remember every last detail that hurts you. That doesn't It doesn't change what happened to let go of it. It happened anyway. So you might as well let go of it if it's hurting you. Okay. Um, I get that this sounds weirdly s- simplified, but it's really not easy. That's why I broke it down like this. I wanted to make something that feels complicated and difficult to define. I wanted to break it down to elements and make it simpler. And it takes work, sure, but this is work that is worth it if you feel like having the life you want is worth it, right? So, in closing, to recap, we discussed what thoughts are keeping you in the past and getting in your way, your relationship scripts and influences, and if they're even helpful or related to who you really are and what you want in your life. Bridging the gap between who you have been in relationships and in the past and who you want to be in the next chapter, and creating the vision for the next chapter and releasing unhelpful thoughts and the fear of pain. And we created your next chapter blueprint. So we did a lot in a pretty short period of time. So at this point, many of you might be wondering, okay, what do I do next? Is it okay if I share with you how I can serve you further? So give me a yes in the chat if that's okay. Okay, sure. Yes. Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you. You know, um, how when there's so much information out there from different experts and relationship experts, dating experts, writers, content creators, and it gets really confusing and it loses your unique nuance. I totally get that. That's what it was like for me when I was struggling and then trying to help my matchmaking clients better. I spent so much time and money studying and learning from experts and sorting through the noise. It was so far beyond a full-time job. And in that time, I was searching for my own answers, right? So that's why I created this shortcut that leaves room for your unique life goals and dating style while providing you a clear path to your ideal relationship, no matter where you are right now. It's called the 6 steps path. It's fully customized to you. So, my clients who've taken this shortcut started going on more quality aligned dates faster or starting their new phase of life more ready to face what was coming. They were able to tune out the noise and advice out there that just didn't really apply to them, but was really pervasive. And it simplified this part of their life and it saved them time, energy, stress, anxiety. And I only started doing this full time in 2021. And then last year, I was invited to 11 weddings. So I'm not saying you need to invite me to your wedding or that marriage is everyone's goal, but that is how fast they went from confused and hopeless to finding ideal partners and building their relationship that they dreamed about. And I do love weddings. Of course, I can't always go, but I will send a gift. But would you agree that going from total dating discouragement and burnout to a wedding in 3 years, 4 years is pretty fast? Tell me in the chat what you think of that. That sounds crazy, impossible, insane. Great if it could happen. Yeah, great if it could happen. So here's what I want you to do. I'm going to drop a link in the chat right now, and it will take you to a page to schedule a free session with me. And we'll talk about your specific situation and what next steps make sense for you. This is where we can ensure we can create a customized roadmap for you to have the life and love that you deserve. It's your time to use however you want. The situations, the people, the crappy behavior, the drama, it can either hold you back or you can just get your own plan to move forward and become the person who's aligned with your ideal next chapter. And if that includes your ideal relationship, one that lifts you up and supports you emotionally and psychologically so you can reach for all the goals in your life with that security and love on your side. I'm sorry that no one properly taught you how to do this. It is the single most important thing you can do. No one taught me either, but now you can learn, stop guessing and being let down again and wasting your time on the wrong people. You only get this one life and it's your turn. You don't have to watch other people find love and wonder how they management. We how they managed it. Like we live in uncertainty, you know? And this is one thing you have control over. You have control over a few things, and this is one of them. So just schedule the free call. It's a free chat with me. We can do it on the phone or Zoom, whatever. Some of you came here from my video about blindside breakups on TikTok. Do you know how many people book called with calls with me from that video to talk about how going through that has been holding them back ever since? Someone told me they hadn't dated in 8 years after that. 8 years. It's almost a decade of wanting that love they dreamt of, that partnership, um, someone to share their life with and being afraid to date because they didn't know how to trust themselves anymore. So we're working on building their dating blueprint and how they actually felt ready to go on a date since we started working together, which they were totally afraid to do before. So that's maybe a more extreme example, but we'll talk on our call about your situation and see if you're a fit for the 6 steps. If we determine you're not a fit, I will give you another resource or referral if I can. A bunch of people who I talked to after they saw TikTok were still way too close to their breakup to start the program, like within a couple weeks. That's okay. We talked about it and I pointed them to other avenues to help them through that stage, and that's fine. So bring to the call all your questions. I will do my best to answer them specifically for you and to give you any tips or resources that I can in the time that you book. So let me know in the chat when you booked your call. So, oh, yay. Mick, Mickey. Did you go by Mick? You go by Mickey. Okay, well, let's talk about the bonuses. Thank you. So, for those that do schedule the call and we move forward, because I have a limited number of people I could start in any given 30 days. And also, it's summer and I've got a pretty hectic, weird schedule this summer. Um, I do because I do not just the one-on-one session, but I do a ton of background work to support you. But you'll also receive 2 bonuses. So, number one is a guide to the first 4 dates so that if and when you do want to date again, we can make it pretty effortless for you and take out a lot of the things that people sort of get hung up on. Um, and because everything I offer celebrates what's unique to you, it's going to remove stress with planning, texting, getting everything ready, follow up, everything like that you're trying to discover for the first 4 dates. And the second is 2 extra sessions with me for check ins when you are dating. So when you're ready to apply your dating blueprint, we can your we can meet to prepare for the date if you decide you want to start dating again, or if not, you just want to check in, you feel yourself spiraling, you feel yourself backtracking, or you want someone on your side while you take another step, book it. Book your 2 more sessions. Totally great. Um, I don't usually have that as part of the program, which people usually complete in anything from um, 6 to 10 weeks, depending on their schedules. So type booked in the chat if you booked it. And if you're having any issues booking the call, just raise your hand. But tell me, yay, Rosa, Oscar, yay, Oscar booked. Becca, Fern, I love that name. That's so nice. I'm so excited that you're all putting yourself first. I want to ensure that everyone who wants to schedule a call will get a chance to get on the calendar as soon as possible, because you're not here if you're not looking for some support and guidance. And so I'm offering a full session of support and guidance for free. Really no pressure at all. No pressure at all. Um, I want you to get a spot on my calendar. It is my calendar. You will talk to me. I have my own trust issues. I wouldn't let somebody else do this. Mm-mm. It's me. I'm in Pacific time. If you don't see a time, let me know and we'll figure it out. Let me put my contact in the chat. If you go to that page, you can email me and tell me like times that you're looking for if you don't see something available. I know I have I'm doing a lot of instruction this summer. And so that is like taking up a lot of time. It doesn't mean I don't have time to talk to you, but I have less, I have a little less availability right now. Okay. So I want to check in as we're doing this. How do you feel? Hopeful, clear? Do you feel empowered? Do you feel like the dating noise and the negativity you've been absorbing have been cleared out at all? Any of the healing noise? Did you learn anything? Are you looking at some things in your life differently now? Still thinking about it. Definitely. I just want to stop feeling this way. Yeah, I understand. I have been there. I understand. I understand. Any final questions about booking the call, your blueprint, other ways to stay in touch? As I mentioned, I'm on Facebook, TikTok. I'm also on Threads where I get like way too personal. And I'm on Blue Sky and Skylight. I hope Skylight takes off. And I'm on YouTube, but I don't upload everything that I record to YouTube yet. You will get a YouTube link to this. But it'll be like a closed link. So it's just for you. Um, And I have a weekly newsletter, and in the Facebook group, you get regular live trainings. And if you follow me on TikTok, I'm doing my weekly live trainings there too, which are generally on Thursdays, sometimes at 11 a.m. or at 4 p.m. PST. But if you can't catch them live, the only way to get them on instant replay is in the Facebook group, and they stay up for about 30 days there. But yeah, I'm on a different summer schedule right now, but you can always check my socials for when my live session is. And if you want to suggest topics for those, um, you can go to my contact link there and tell me the things that you want to hear about. If I can make a live training on it, I will. Again, I really want to commend you all for showing up for yourselves today. I know you had other things you could have been doing today. And I know this may feel a little uncomfy, but I promise it will make your healing journey and your next easier and your next chapter more beautiful and more fulfilling and healthier and more full of love and light and joy. So please ensure you have all your journaling and blueprint prompts ready to fill out. And let me know if you do. Got him. Got him. Yes. Got him. Get him on the replay. Yeah, you can get him on the replay. And that you know where to find me. All my social links are on my website. You can access them from the email you'll get later today with the replay link. And finally, it might take me a little bit to do the replay. I'm gonna try to edit out all the coffee and sneezing. I'm sorry. And finally, I want to make sure you booked a call so we could chat about what's going on for you and discover if we're fit for each other at this time. You'll get a lot of value from me in that time either way, I promise. And I know there are people here right now who've had their free session and just joined my free group on Facebook and they just engage with my free content. And that's good with me. Okay. So tell me all good in the chat if you have all that. All set. All good. All, all set. Good stuff. Oh, good. Thanks. Okay, great. Great. Thank you for joining. Thank you for being such great and engaged participants. It has been a blast, even when it was tough. And I express my sincere gratitude to you for showing up for yourself today. Okay. And taking this time for yourself. So have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Please stay in touch. Make sure you book your call. I'd love to talk to you and hear about what's going on and see if I can help you. Okay. Take care of yourselves. All right. Bye.